After almost half a century of hibernation, field lacrosse reappeared on the Victoria sports scene in 1980 with the formation of the Victoria Seasprays. The rejuvenation actually began in 1974 when Canada sent a squad of our top box lacrosse players to the World Field Lacrosse Championships in Australia. Ranjit Dillon was the only Victoria-born player picked, and after a crash course on how to use the much bigger field lacrosse sticks, the Canadian boys wound up in a three-way tie for second place. 4 years later, the Canadian team, made up of almost all Eastern Canada box lacrosse players, won the 1978 Miracle in the Mud world title in England. After that snub, a BC Winter Field Lacrosse League consisting of Victoria and 4 mainland teams was proposed, with the aim of promoting the game and producing players for the 1982 World Championships. That league began in February of 1980 and ran until April. Jim Hartshorn of Seaspray Properties sponsored the Victoria team, which was managed by George Grover and coached by Chris Hall with Ed Kowalik as his assistant. Featuring Boxla stars Ron McNeil, Larry Bell, and Art Webster, they played home games at UVic Centennial Stadium and racked up lopsided wins over Burnaby, Vancouver, and North Shore. The Seasprays played 12 league games without a loss in their opening season and then affiliated with Washington and Oregon associations and beat both of them too. At the season-ending Pacific Northwest tournament in Portland, Victoria Seasprays beat 2 Seattle teams, Oregon State and San Francisco, to finish their season with a perfect 18-0 record. They took home the first of their numerous titles. A Canada West All-Star team, which included 11 Seaspray players, went to the prestigious Western States Championship in California. Kevin Alexander scored 20 goals in 4 games, but the All-Stars lost to Orange County in the final. League play shifted to Royal Athletic Park the following season when the Seasprays also played in 3 major tournaments. They hosted and won the first annual Victoria Seaspray tournament, extending their victory streak to 25 games. At the Stanford tournament, they won their 2 qualifying games and then the semifinal, where they beat the defending champs and went on to edge San Francisco to win the title. And then they wound up the season by winning their 2nd Pacific Northwest tournament in Portland, stretching their record to 33-0. Late that year, 5 Seaspray players, Kevin Alexander, Walt Christensen, John Crowther, Bill Marichek, and Chris Hall, were named to Canada's national team for the 1982 Worlds in Baltimore. Over the next 2 seasons, Victoria dominated the West and extended their win streak to 66 games, along the way adding provincial, Pacific Northwest, and Western States titles. They also hosted and beat highly ranked Rutgers University from New Jersey in a match that saw the then 15-year-old Gate twins make their debuts with the Sprays. Our national team, featuring face-off specialist Norm Baker Jr., won silver medals at the pre-Olympic World Tournament in Los Angeles, and Hall and Alexander were named to the All-World team. A Canadian Field Lacrosse Championship for the Ross Cup was re-established in 1984, and the Payless-sponsored Victoria team won the inaugural title over Peterborough. The Seasprays' 6-year win streak ended at 75 games when they lost to Coquitlam in the 1985 Pacific Northwest and BC tournaments. Undeterred, they won their 2nd Canadian Field Lacrosse Championships in Winnipeg, stretching their amazing win-loss record to 105-3 by downing Ontario in the final. Hall and Alexander were selected to Canada's World Tournament team. The Victoria Field Lacrosse Club began the 1986 season with a 4-team house league and more than 60 players signed up. Jerry Van Trite was manager, while Jivan Dillon, Andy Reid, and Scott Browning took on leadership roles. Their rep team defended its Northwest and Western States tournament records and then hosted and won the Victoria Invitational Tournament. A BC Championship victory in North Vancouver paved the way to the Canadian playoffs in Montreal. There, they outscored Oshawa to win their 3rd Canadian Championship. Their record now stood at 124 wins and 3 losses. In 1987, with about 90 players and some junior high schools involved in local field lacrosse, the Victoria Seasprays were renamed the Royal Waxmen. Victoria again hosted and again won a spring invitational tournament. Waxman teams won both A and B divisions at the 40-team Portland tournament and went on to win both the BC senior title and the Under-19 championship. They then entered the first Brogden Cup International Tournament against the top U.S. senior club. In a best-of-3 series against Baltimore, the Waxmen lost the opener but won the next 2 matches to bring home the cup. In 1989, they hosted and claimed their 4th Canadian title with a win over Oshawa to extend their one-loss record to 142-4. When Chris Hall was named coach of our national team, Kevin Alexander took over as the Waxmen's player coach. They began the next season with 2 wins over Portland and defended the Pacific Northwest title by outscoring Denver in the final. The Waxmen also extended their provincial record to 9 titles in 10 seasons, as well as winning their 5th consecutive Ross Cup national title. Victoria dominated the selections when Western and Eastern Canadian teams met in the final of a Colorado tournament where national team selections were made. 12 Victoria players, including the Gate twins, were picked for the 1990 Worlds in Australia. Canada made it into the final, but lost the title to the team from the U.S. In 1992, the Brogden Cup became a North American championship, and our Canadian champion Waxmen lost to the U.S. champion Maryland squad. The Victoria Field Lacrosse Club used a Waxmen versus Canada West challenge game to launch a successful campaign to have field lacrosse chosen as a demonstration sport at the upcoming 1994 Commonwealth Games here in Victoria. Fittingly, Royal Athletic Park, which was built as the lacrosse venue back in the 1910s, was chosen as the venue for the Commonwealth lacrosse matches. A dozen Victoria players were named to Canada's national team, which won bronze at the 94 Worlds in Manchester. The Waxmen won the 1995 and 96 BC and Canadian championships, but lost the Brogden Cup to Long Island, New York. They retained the 1997 BCs and Tier 1 and Tier 2 national titles, but once again, Long Island defeated the Waxmen in Brogden Cup play at New York. Renamed back to the Seasprays in 1998, the club operated a Vancouver Island League with 6 teams, as well as junior and women's programs. That year, they won their 17th BC championship, as well as their 13th Pacific Northwest title in 18 seasons of play. The Seasprays then topped that by becoming the only Canadian club to defeat the Americans in Brogden Cup play, with impressive victories over the New York Athletic Club at the Wanda Fuqua Oval. With a record of 142 wins and only 8 losses in their first 8 seasons, the Victoria Field Lacrosse Club boasts the best win record of any known amateur team in any sport in Victoria. To mark that unrivaled record, we are honored to induct into the Greater Victoria Sports Hall of Fame the 1980 to 1998 Victoria Seasprays Royal Waxmen Field Lacrosse teams.